There you go.
Okay, start. Okay, I'm going to stop in 45 minutes. So, there were several things in the earlier talks that tied in, and I just have to read this little thing on Abzu for Jonas. A well-established tradition of Semitic mythology insisted that wisdom, Sophia, dwelt in that primordial substance, Abzu, which Jonas referred to. In Mesopotamia, the word Abzu, which denotes that ocean, was popularly interpreted as Ab-Zu, the abode of wisdom, and regarded as the seat of Ea, god of arts and creativity and crafts and intellectual creativity. It was indeed largely by virtue of the wisdom latent in that ocean that magicians were able to operate, and it was from that ocean that the 7 primeval masters of arts and sciences, whom later Sophia became the patron of, were believed to have sprung. Now that particular quote that he brought up before about Abzu, that reference, was actually the reason that I got into Sophia. That was what actually led me. I was doing a paper on Kierkegaard in my master's degree, and I was so bored and angry with Kierkegaard for giving up his love. You know, he fell in love and he gave it up for God, and I said, what kind of an idiot is that? And then I wandered over and found, you know, in this biblical dictionary, this quote, and I went, that's it. You know, the home of arts and creativity, that's for me, baby. So, all right, so before I get, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to satisfy the left brain, because I did do a lot of I've been at this for 25 years. I have reams of material. Almost everything that you hear today can be found in detail on my website, SOPHIAandthedragon.com. I have business cards all here. I've got papers, meanings, you know, to pass out and all of that. So this is just a quick overview here. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to juxtapose the left brain and the right brain. The academic stuff to satisfy those of you who, you know, really get invigorated with the etymology and the sources, which I know Jonas wants. But also a little right brain stuff, which is the juice for me, which is the meaning that's evolved over the contemplation of this image of Sophia. Okay, so we're going to start with, on behalf of Catherine Johnson, who was at our original meeting with Jonas many, many years ago, 2000, whenever that was. This is her favorite poem. This is a Gnostic. This is Sophia speaking of herself. Sophia, of course, is in Gnosticism, alchemy, all over. Russian Sophiology, she's found all over the world. This is attributed as a speech of Sophia in the Nag Hammadi library that Jonas referenced. And if you want information on that, again, go to my website. Okay, for I am the first and the last. I am the honored one and the scorned one. I am the whore and the holy one. I am the wife and the virgin. I am the mother and the daughter. I am the silence that is incomprehensible, and the idea whose remembrance is frequent. I am the voice whose sound is manifold, and the word whose appearance is multiple. I am the utterance of my name. I am the hearing that is attainable to everything. I am the speech that cannot be grasped. I am the name of the sound and the sound of the name. I am the sign of the letter and the designation of the division. Okay, so we find Sophia in the biblical books of the Bible, so I'm going to give you a little bit of the academic stuff first. Sophia is a Greek word of feminine gender, meaning wisdom. Wisdom in antiquity, in its broadest sense, meant the skill of an artisan. It meant sound judgment and the ability to cope with life. It's here, it's not in the abstract. It is not an abstract spiritual deity that has been projected up into the starry realms. It is right here. Sophia, as the female personification of divine wisdom, was the product of Greek-speaking Judaism. In Hebrew, the equivalent term is chokhmah. The body of literature in which wisdom, quote-unquote, speaks is called the wisdom literature. Most of these texts were written and edited in the post-exilic period of Judaism, from 500 years before the Common Era on. Wisdom speaks to men about the folly of seeking gold instead of clear perception. She represents vision. She's always associated with spiritual vision. She addresses men at the city gate and the marketplace, which indicates one of the homes of wisdom, which is the everyday affairs of business transactions and politics. Now, this is in Palestine. Okay, so this is within the in Judaism. Wisdom is concerned with discovery of the good life and the proper relation to God. The verses in which the female wisdom speaks are vivid and passionate outpourings of love that invite the listener to seek her and love her instead of gold, instead of profit. They articulate with intensity and devotion a wisdom defined as clear perception and suggest that wisdom is the supreme value of life and the antidote to materialism and greed. So wisdom in the literature and the scholarly research refers to both style and content. It's a way of writing. Of course, it's a literary device for instruction in the Bible. The content, amongst all scholars, myself included, the one word of the content of wisdom can be summed up in one word, and that is four-letter word.
Love.
Life. It starts, it's rooted in life. But most of the Western world, so most of us, most of us are in the Western world, in Europe and we're either Christian, Jewish, or Muslim. Whether or not a Westerner goes to church or a temple or professes any kind of a belief, we have to, we know that we've been conditioned, thoroughly conditioned, by the monotheism of Christianity, of Judaism first, and then Judaism and Islam. The foundation of each one of these religions is based upon some version of the Bible. Each is based upon an interpretation of the one male God, Yahweh. Very few people brought up in the doctrines of their religion, though, are aware that tucked inside the passages of their most holy book are numerous references to a divine feminine being, God's quote-unquote playmate, his master craftswoman, who was the architect of the universe. This is in Proverbs chapter 1. Now the word Amon that was used, the original Hebrew word, can be translated, of course, 12 or 14 ways. Those of you who know the ancient languages know that you can have multiple meanings of these words. So I have that again on my website. It can mean playmate, God's playmate. It can mean the one who was with the master designer. It's generally interpreted as the divine architect, designer, craftswoman. That's another translation. Sophia is the third most commonly mentioned divine name in the Bible, but few have heard about her position next to God and her divine stature. So, it is not clear. Now, most of you, were raised in some kind of Christian, Jewish, or Muslim tradition, I presume. Okay. I never heard about Sophia next to God at creation. Why did they eliminate that? Why do we just hear about Genesis? Now, chronologically, one could argue that, the Proverbs was 500 years before the Common Era. Genesis, presumably, earlier. It is not clear why this powerful figure faded away from theology and the further articulation and development, which happened in all the three major religions. A convergence of factors occurring during the rise of Christianity coincided with her disappearance. Among them was Philo's. He's always blamed. Philo's always blamed in the first century. Among them was Philo's subsuming her identity under the masculine term logos, L-O-G-O-S. I think the Greek pronunciation is logos. Another was the institution of regulations and prohibitions against the discussion of wisdom on the quote-unquote filthy streets following the invasion of Palestine in the 2nd century of the Common Era. It belonged to the people, the discussion of wisdom, the discussion of integrity in the marketplace, the discussion of how to deal wisely with each other with integrity, and particularly the notion of a prince or a king and ruling wisely was advocated, valued, insisted upon, and there was a relationship between the people and the rulers in that sense. The people demanded it. The rulers had their viziers, their wise men. They would send them to Persia. They would send them to Samaria. They would send them to Egypt and India, and they would send them all over. The wise men would spend a certain time there. Then they would come back to Palestine, or, you know, and there was a mutual exchange going on to teach the king how to rule wisely. What happened to this? So this was the basis of my research. Like, you know, what, you know, look at Bush, look at, what, you know, what happened to this? Why did it disappear? You know, what's going on?